is Estelle Brink from Jericho Walls International Prayer Network. Today I want to speak about a topic I think is challenging for all of us, and that is, what do you do when you have doubts when you are praying? So I want to touch on a few thoughts and words that's familiar to us, but just to elaborate on them. And maybe it will give you some guidelines on where you stand when you have doubt in prayer. The first and important thing, I think, is to discern between doubt and unbelief, and then secondly, little faith and great faith. So what does all these things mean? So little faith means faith that gives up quickly. You believe, but when you do not see a breakthrough immediately, or when circumstances overwhelm you, you give up believing. Let us read together Matthew 8 verse 26. But he said to them, "Why are you fearful, O you of little faith?" Then he arose and rebuked the winds and the sea, and there was a great calm. So here we see the disciples at sea. There's a great storm, and I'm sure they were trying to speak to the storm, but the storm didn't listen. But then Jesus comes and he says, "You've got little faith," meaning they may have tried, but it didn't happen, and then they gave up and gave themselves over to fear. Another one comes from Matthew 14 verse 31. And immediately Jesus stretched out his hand and caught him and said to him, "O you of little faith, why did you doubt?" This is speaking of Peter, who got out of the boat, walked perfectly well on the water, and then he started to sink. Why? He had little faith that it's possible to walk on the water, but then when he looked around, fear overcame him and he started to sink. That's what little faith is about. Then we read about great faith in Matthew 8 verse 9. "For I am also a man under authority, having soldiers under me. And I said to this one, Go, and he goes, and to the another, Come, and he comes, and to my servant, Do this, and he does it." When Jesus heard this, he marveled and said to those who followed him, "Assuredly, I say to you, I have not found such great faith, not even in Israel." So great faith, when we look at this incident, is when you have a level of trust, but you don't have proof that it's going to work. It is requiring a little bit of faith, and there's no natural proof. So unbelief wants proof and evidence, and great faith is taking that step in faith in the unseen and the impossible. So again, we come to the fact that great faith is faith that endures. You don't give up like with little faith. Now, what is then unbelief? In short, you can say that when you see something happening right in front of your eyes and you don't believe it, you are in unbelief. So, in my opinion, unbelief is where we start to doubt. And if you give yourself over to doubt, and doubt becomes fully grown, you end up in unbelief. Now, here is the scary thing. If you continue in an attitude of unbelief, you will end up in an attitude of offense. And once you've taken offense, it's very hard to turn around to believing anything and trusting anything again. So it's important that we do not end up here. And if we look at Luke 7 verse 18 to 28, it tells a story about John the Baptist in prison now, sending for Jesus, asking, "Are you the Messiah?" But just a few chapters earlier, John baptized Jesus and said, "This is the one that is coming after me. He must increase and I must decrease." What happened between that baptism of Jesus and now John being in prison? And then very interesting, in that last verse, Jesus says, "Blessed is he who does not become offended." So there's come doubt, there's come unbelief, and now he was on the verge of offense. Is it possible that you and I have slipped down the road of doubt, unbelief, and on the verge or brink of offense? And you know, things happen in many instances in different areas of our lives. And when it does, it starts to influence our prayer life. And this is why I'm sharing of this. Now, the remedy for an unbelieving heart is that you need a heart of flesh. Paul also says in Hebrews 3 verse 12, "Beware, brethren, lest be in any of you an evil heart of unbelief in departing from the living God." So there is an evil heart of unbelief. A hardened heart ends us up in unbelief. And Ezekiel 36:26 says that God will give us a new heart and renew a new spirit in us. If you find yourself in this space today, won't you ask the Lord to give you a new heart? What do you do if you are on the beginnings of doubting certain things, doubting whether God will answer, doubting this, doubting that? Now, the remedy for doubt is hope. And I want to read to you 1 Corinthians 9 verse 10, the second part. It says, "This is written, that he who plows should plow in hope, and he who threshes in hope should be partaker of his hope." The Lord wants us to take hope, focus on hope, on things that are positive when we pray. Otherwise, we'll just slip down that road. And I want to encourage you, do not fall into doubt. When you have fallen into doubt, do not end up in unbelief. When you've ended up in unbelief and you see some offense growing in your heart, go before the Lord and make it right. For it's important that you and I remain in right standing before Him, so our prayers may be answered.